working on our watermelon necklace. This is a fun summertime necklace or 4th of July. And there's a couple things that are different about this. We take our round, and this is a 2.5 inch round, so we have a wider area to work with. And you drill your big hole in it. And then you take that and you slice it down the middle of that hole to make your 2 watermelon pieces. And then you take a little file and file it out to look like somebody has taken a bite out of it. You also could do the little earrings, which would be really, really cute as well. And let's go ahead and start with that. And the first thing we're going to do, in this one we're going to do a little bit different. We want to make sure that it's a little bit wider piece because we want to get the outside as well, so this looks like our rhyme. So we're going to start with our rhyme, and I'm going to be using a green color, and I've used a green and I've also used a yellow green, so whichever green you want to use. And I'm going to start by doing the outside first. And then we're going to come in here and just with the edge of my brush, we're going to put this up just a little bit. Just bring that around. And I've warmed my brush up ahead of time in my wax, so it's all nice and warm. Okay, so we've got that there. Now, this is where it's been sliced. If you want to bring a little bit up to the top, you can. Or you can leave that red up there. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do. And I'm going to go ahead and put my red on next. And I didn't have him soaking, so I'm going to soak him just a minute to get him nice and warm and soft with the wax here. And then we're going to just bring him right up next to our green that we applied on. I'm going to pull that all the way up. And I'm going to go ahead and fill that in there and bring that around to the top. And all the way. I'm going to smooth out the red just a little bit just to get it nice and smooth. That all done, and we're going to be using a wax liner to make our little lines here, and we're going to be putting that between the green and the red. And I've let this guy warm up in the wax, and I'm just going to come along and I'm going to put the 2 colors. Just put it right along the 2 colors. You don't want to push real hard because you don't want to melt that. So we're just adding some white right there. And I'm going to let this cool off for just a moment, and then we'll come right back. Okay, now that we've got our red all smoothed out and it's nice and cool, I'm going to do a row of lime green, and then we'll come back and put black in here too to give it more the watermelon look. And again, this is with my wax liner, and don't push down hard on it so that it because you pick up the wax underneath. You want to keep that right on top. You don't want to melt into it. And I'm trying to just brighten this up just a little bit here. And then we'll switch over to black. Just give it more of that watermelon rind look. If you didn't want to do it like that, another thing that you could do is you could do the dark green and then you could do the light green and then the white. And I think that's what I did here, but I kind of lost it once it melted. So you could do it a little bit thicker and bring that rind up a little bit more, which may be the way to do it as well. So I cleaned out my wax tool and I'm going to put it into my black. And we're going to get started on the black part. Alright. And we're just going to do the kind of same thing. We're just trying to bring some little black lines, not a whole lot, just to give it more of that watermelon look. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the little black seeds. And I'm just going to pull these up just a tad because when you melt them, they get bigger and bigger. So we just want to add some watermelon seeds. Okay, so we've got that part. And then the last thing I'm going to do is we're going to kind of add a little bit of reflection light. And you can take your red and mix it with your white just a tad and then stipple it on to get more of this kind of pinkish color. And we're just going to put that kind of on the top a little bit just to give it a little bit of color. Alright, so let's go over and let's start melting this. And on this one, I'm not going to melt this one as much. On these others, like on this guy, I blew him quite a bit and move the color around more. But this guy I'm not going to do quite as much, so you can kind of see the difference between the two. And we also have to get our sides on this guy. So this is a little bit different than what we're normally used to working with. So I'm going to kind of just be real careful with your fingers. It's really hot. Just do that a little bit and then lay that down. Try and get the top a little bit as well. And we're just going to start to melt that. Now, I'm blowing the edges up to the top and leaving that white line right there. I'm not going to make this one any bigger, but the more you start to get these guys, I'm going to melt those just a tad right there. They're not quite all the way there yet. The more you blow it, the more bigger it gets, the warmer it gets, the blacker seeds get to be a little bit bigger. But I don't want to lose my edge, and I really like that. I think that's really perfect the way it is right there. So I'm totally going to stop on that. Now, we're going to let this cool a minute before we touch it. Obviously, we don't scrape our sides off on this. And another thing that we're going to do different that we do with most pieces is once this is cooled and we're able to touch it and it's nice and dry, we're going to put in our eye hook, because we're going to put our finish over the top of it with our dimensional magic. And you don't want to do this later, because if you do this later and you have your dimensional magic on it, your dimensional magic will kind of lift. So you want to do this before you put your finish on. Now, if that happens where it separates from the gourd from the finish from the wax, you just heat it back up again. It's not a big deal, and it'll settle back down. Sometimes you need to touch it just a tad with your finger, but it's okay to do that. Now you can even see this little part white even got less as it dried, but I still like the watermelon rind look along the edges, so I'm still going to leave that. Now, there's a couple of ways you can hang this. I did one so it would hang like a piece of watermelon like that. But on this one, I want to make it with the earrings. So I'm going to put it right at the top, and then we'll do the earrings to match it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, let's scrape this back first, because we're going to come in this back a little bit later and paint it all black. But we want to remove any of the wax that is on the back, because we're not going to put a finish on it. So we want to make sure that all of that is removed so that nothing is there to melt. Okay. I really like the way this one turned out. Don't be afraid to redo it if you don't like it. And we're going to punch our hole. And we're going to put our eye hook in, our screw eye. If you need a kit, go on my site and look for a kit. So we can get these all to you and you can just sit down and make them. You also can put a little bit of E6000 in with your screw eye, or you can put a little bit of wood putty or quick wood on it to help that, support that. So now that we have that, we're going to finish talking about our dimensional magic, which is what we're going to put on it. And this is made, excuse me, to go on to glass or paper projects to look like glass. So this is to go on very, very thick. So we want to put this on nice and thick, but we've got to put it on with a brush because this is not flat and it will move and drip off. So we're going to put at least 3 to 5 coats, and I always tell you to test it so that you know if it is all sealed real well. So we're going to go ahead and put this on, and I'm going to start with the edges, just a little bit to start with, and we'll get to more here in just a minute. And I'm going to have to go find my brush, and I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got that, and we're not going to wipe it off, we're just going to put it on nice and thick. And I'm going to do, and the nice thing about that little screw eye is you can hold on to it now too. Okay, and I would have this on, I wouldn't put this on paper, but on a tray or a dry board where you can pick it up off of so it doesn't stick to it. But we want this nice and thick, and it's better to have too much than not enough. And you're just going to move it around. I'm not really brushing it, I'm just kind of evening all of it out. And if it goes down the sides, make sure you smooth it out on the sides that you don't have a drip. But you should not see any brush strokes on this at all. It should be a nice even coat and just kind of settle down. And we're going to go ahead and put our other coats on, and our last coat we want to make sure that we let it dry for 3 hours minimum before we finish up our necklace. So come on back and we'll finish our watermelon.